You're watching History Highlights, bringing you brief and in-depth information of the highest quality. Welcome to the long-term causes of World War I. In this first video, we'll look at the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 and 1871 and how it contributed to the outbreak of the Great War. As summarized by Wikipedia, the Franco-Prussian War, or Franco-German War, often referred to in France as the 1870 War, was a conflict between the Second French Empire and the Kingdom of Prussia. Prussia was aided by the North German Confederation, of which it was a member, and the South German states of Baden, Württemberg, and Bavaria. The complete Prussian and German victory brought about the final unification of Germany under King Wilhelm I of Prussia. It also marked the downfall of Napoleon III and the end of the Second French Empire, which was replaced by the French Third Republic. Part of the settlement, the territory of Alsace and part of Lorraine, was taken by Prussia to become part of Germany, which it would retain until the end of World War I, when it was returned to France in the Treaty of Versailles. The Franco-Prussian War, despite ending some 43 years before the beginning of the First World War, is arguably one of the main long-term reasons the war broke out. The war began on the 19th of July 1870. The shifting of power in Europe after the Napoleonic Wars and the antagonism that followed were mostly responsible for the outbreak of the Franco-Prussian War. Prussia had fought the French in the early 1800s and bested them. Napoleon I was exiled to St. Helena, and onwards from this point, tension between the Germanic states and France exploded, and pure aggression grew. This was the cause for 3 more wars before the end of the 1900s. The tension that had culminated between the two countries after the Napoleonic Wars finally came to a head over the issue of a Hohenzollern candidate for the vacant Spanish throne after the deposition of Queen Isabella II in 1886. The public release of the Ems dispatch, which played up alleged insults between the Prussian king and French ambassador, inflamed public opinion on both sides. France mobilized and on the 19th of July declared war on Prussia only, but the other German states quickly joined on Prussia's side. It is speculated that Prussian Chancellor Otto von Bismarck was eager to start a war between the Germanic states and France. He noted in his book, after being stripped of his position by Kaiser Wilhelm II, "I knew that a Franco-Prussian war must take place before a united Germany was formed." By the time the war ended on the 10th of May 1871, several outcomes had come about. One of the most notable was the annexation of Alsace-Lorraine by German forces. Alsace-Lorraine was returned to the French after the Central Powers' defeat in 1918. 2 other major outcomes were the unification of the Germanic states to form the German Empire in early January 1871, and the collapse of the Second French Empire and the founding of the French Third Republic on September 4, 1870. By the end, the French had suffered a total of 756,285 casualties, while the Germans suffered a comparatively small casualty rate of 134,000. Germany's army, throughout the 20th century as well, was a symbol of pride and nationalism. It was better organized, trained, and equipped. The damage caused to the French repeated itself in a much more detrimental manifestation during World Wars I and II. The Prussian-German army was one step ahead from the very start. George Clemenceau realized the hatred for Germany after they had won the war. By the time of 1919, when the Treaty of Versailles was being formed, the hatred had grown ridiculous amounts thanks to the pure destructiveness that World War I had on France. This drove Clemenceau to force harsh punishments into the texts of the treaty. The Prussians had a dense and efficient railroad system, as did France, but more so Prussia, meaning that their troops could be maneuvered quicker. They also had better equipment, as their Dreiser M.41 rifles were superior to the French Chassepot counterpart, not to mention the upper hand provided by the better Prussian steel artillery. A string of decisive victories for Prussian and German forces in eastern France culminated at the Battle of Sedan, in which Napoleon III was captured along with his whole army on September 2, 1870. This, however, did not end the war as it thought it would. 2 days later, the Third Republic was formed, and the French forces continued fighting under the government of National Defense, and later Adolphe Thiers. A 5-month campaign followed, where German armies defeated the newly recruited French armies in northern France. Following the siege of Paris, the city fell on the 28th of January 1871. The siege is also noteworthy as it involves the first use of anti-aircraft artillery, a German piece built specifically to bring down the hot air balloons being used by the French as couriers. 10 days earlier, the German states had proclaimed their union under the Prussian king Kaiser Wilhelm I, uniting Germany as a nation-state, the German Empire. The final Treaty of Frankfurt was signed 10th of May 1871, during the time of the Paris Commune uprising. This has been my first video for History Highlights. Next time we'll look at the alliances around the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century.